Thank you for coming. Today we're going to talk about campaign finance and what the requirements are here in Massachusetts. We're going to talk about public employees, what you can do in public buildings, all these sorts of different things. The good thing, almost all of this is available on our website. So the good thing about having someone here in person is I'm able to answer your questions. So if you have questions, feel free to throw your hands up. I will hopefully be able to answer them right there on the spot. There could be a chance that we're going to talk about it in a few more slides, so I'll suggest that we just wait a few moments until we get to that section. I do have a PowerPoint, and it's just for my talking points, but we can go different directions as we move along here for the campaign finance seminar. OCPF, we're a very small agency. We're on Beacon Hill. They don't let us work in the State House. They have us over here at 1 Ashburton Place. It's a 21-story building full of state workers. We're on the 4th floor, 16 people, a budget of $1.6 million. And we have what I feel is a big impact because of what we put on our website. In Massachusetts, whenever you read through the local newspapers and you read political stories, very frequently you're going to see something from our office in that story. It may not be focused on campaign finance, but if they're talking about new legislation that the town wants to pass or the state, the reporter is going to go to the OCPF website and they're going to look up the campaign finance data and at least put that paragraph in there. You know, candidate X has this amount, or candidate X gets this type of money from these types of people. And so we have a big impact because of what we have on our website, and it makes a lot of news from time to time, even though we're very small. What we oversee are individuals who file with our office. It's about 2,700 different committees. You're talking about your statewide people, all your county people, like your sheriffs, your DAs, those sorts of things. State reps, state senators, of course there are 200 of them in office, and then twice that number as just regular candidates. We have all mayors, all city councilors in cities of 65,000 or more, about 250 political action committees, and about 1,000 local party committees like the Southborough Republicans, the Southborough Democrats. All of these different committees are out there raising and spending money. The requirement is to put that information into a campaign finance report and file it with our office electronically. So we deal with those reports all the time. Also under our umbrella though, under the campaign finance umbrella, are municipal filers. I don't even know how many thousands of municipal filers there are. Every city in town has local elections where people are filling school committee seats, planning boards, all these different sorts of things, selectmen, city council, and they're filing locally on our forms. But the public sees those as well because the statute requires, if certain thresholds are met, that those reports are scanned and put on websites. So campaign finance data is all over the place and people are starting to see it because of what's online. I'll just talk a little bit about our office. We're small, like I said, 16 people. We're not a gotcha agency. Sometimes we get phone calls and people start off with, I'm so nervous, you know, I think I messed up. We don't want people to think of us as a gotcha agency. Actually, I come from the newspaper world. I graduated from college with a journalism degree, and I worked at a few different newspapers, one in Illinois and then one here in Massachusetts, which was what brought me out here. And at all these newspapers, in order to get on the front page, they wanted that gotcha story. So, you know, newspaper reporters are sort of built to look for that, oh, you made a mistake, gotcha, boom, on the front page. I took that attitude into OCPF when I was finally hired there in 2009. And at first I was going through training, and I'd go and I'd get my training, and then I'd look at the reports and I'd say, they messed up. And so I'd go to my boss and I'd say, hey Mike, look, this person messed up, what are we gonna do? He's like, calm down. We're not a gotcha agency. We're not out here to make headlines. We're not here to try and get people in trouble. We really are here to help. So as candidates, if you're out there, you're going to be out there raising and spending money. You're going to be making decisions. Call us up. We're here to help. Seriously, if you have a question about the campaign finance law, we'll guide the way and we'll help you fill out these forms. Okay, so that's OCPF in a nutshell. I like to mention how my boss is appointed because we are nonpartisan. the head of the state Republican Party, the head of the state Democratic Party, the Secretary of State, and then a law school dean appointed by the governor. Those 4 people get together every 6 years and they appoint a director. And they say, good luck. They go away, he or she runs the office for 6 years, and they can reappoint them or select someone new. Mike is currently in his 5th 6-year term. It's his last term. He's probably going to retire here in a few months. But he's been there for quite some time. And part of the reason why he's been there for so long is because he's nonpartisan. He just tries to go right down the middle and sort of like a football official, call the balls and call the penalties and the touchdowns as we move along here, trying to be fair. We have an audit department. They look at all the reports. About 30,000 reports are filed with us every year, untold thousands on the muni level. We have 2 auditors who travel the state to audit municipal reports. So they'll pop into a city or town hall, they'll say, show us your reports, they'll take a look, and if there's an issue, they'll help individuals work out the issues on their reports. We also have a legal department, and they'll answer your campaign finance questions. Feel free to email us if you want to get an opinion from the legal department. I'm the communications guy, so I deal with the media, but I also put the content on the website. We have all sorts of content. If you can't find something on our website, call us up. One of the most frequent questions we get is, hey, I need to file a campaign finance report. I can't find the form. One little trick that I like to pass out is just go to Google, type in OCPF, and then the number of the form. M102 is the one you're looking for. It's the first thing that pops up. So feel free to do that. So that's OCPF in a nutshell. Like I said, primarily what we're looking at is disclosure. Money raised, money spent. We want to see that either on our website or on a campaign finance report that's filed with the town clerk's office. Our legal department, however, gets tied up in these issues all the time. Public employees, public buildings, and public resources. And you'll see why as we go through this. We call them the ground rules because they apply to everybody. If you're running a ballot question campaign here in Southborough because they want to build a new high school, you're going to get a lot of teachers involved. So it's good to know information, these sort of ground rules as we move forward. So we'll talk about these a little bit. Public employees, who are they? It's my understanding that Dave Giannotti from Ethics spoke fairly recently. They have a different definition of public employee than we do. For us, a public employee is someone who's not only appointed, but also compensated. So as far as we're concerned, public employees are not people who are appointed to boards and are volunteers. They're not compensated in any way. Public employees to us they're compensated and they're appointed. School teachers, firefighters, police officers, people who work at the senior center, librarians, community college people, UMass people, myself as a state employee, all public employees. And the rule is that public employees may not solicit or receive campaign contributions directly or indirectly. That's how it says it in the statute, directly or indirectly. Indirectly, that's where we have to sort of interpret a little bit, but we'll get into that a little bit later. 24/7, public employees can never solicit or receive campaign contributions or solicit or receive for any political purpose. And nationwide. Doesn't really affect Southborough as much, but I get this kind of call. Hey Jason, I'm a school teacher in Haverhill. My cousin's running for state rep up there, wants me to sell 10 tickets to his fundraiser. Can I do that? No. You're a public employee here in Haverhill, in Massachusetts. You can never solicit or receive for any political purpose. We're going to get a lot of these calls next year because of the federal elections, right? So people are running for Congress, people are running for president. Public employees are going to want to help in those campaigns, and they can. They still have to stay away from the money. So let's break it down a little bit and kind of talk about what it means to solicit or receive. The receipt of campaign contributions by a public employee is prohibited. That's the actual physical receipt of these things. So a school teacher can't sell tickets to a fundraiser. We had a case once in a city. Someone was running for city council and they had an event at a restaurant. If you've ever been at a political event, you know that you need to get the name and address of every donor, from $1 up to 1,000. At this event, the line was getting really long because they're scrambling to collect checks and write down all the names and addresses. So the candidate went up to his wife and he said, hey, can you sit down and start to take some of these checks? We're getting desperate here, we need to get this party started. She's like, sure. Sits down at the table, starts to take checks, names and addresses. Someone sees her, they report her to OCPF because they know she works part-time 2 towns over for the DPW. And that's a legal case. Our general counsel looked at that and said, violation. So it's simple things like that when you think, a public employee might think, I'm just helping out, but they're actually violating the campaign finance law. Just something to think about if you're running campaigns. We don't get a lot of these cases. Where we get most of our public employees cases is when it involves solicitations, asking for money. For example, let's say you're running your campaign. Your example is this, your election's this spring, I assume. Maybe you're meeting on Wednesday nights with everybody, all your volunteers. Sometimes you put up lawn signs, sometimes you're stuffing envelopes. Well, on this night, your fundraiser's coming up, your sort of your big fundraiser, and the candidate looks at the list to see who's coming. Notices half of the people haven't even RSVP'd. So he says, hey, everybody, grab your cell phones. We're going to call the other half of this list, make sure they're coming. Well, cousin number 2, who's helping you out in the campaign, works at UMass Boston, is going to have to say, sorry, can't help you tonight. I'm a state employee. I can't make fundraising phone calls. Those sorts of things to look out for. Social media. We see a lot of cases on this now. You can imagine, let's say it's a Sunday afternoon. Maybe I'm a firefighter here in Southborough, and I'm enjoying a television show, but I open up my Facebook page on my private laptop and I say, hey, my brother's running for school committee in town. My parents are going to have a last-minute fundraiser for him. $25 a head at their house Friday night. Hope to see you all there. I post that to my private Facebook page. Well, someone sees it. They know I'm a firefighter. Maybe they don't like my brother for some reason. They can take that, send it to OCPF, and our general counsel would look at that and say, violation. It's a public employee, a firefighter, inviting people to a fundraiser. Just something to think about as you're running your campaigns in the election season. This is an invitation being sent out. I imagine it's an email that's being blasted out to everybody on a candidate's list. And it says, Tyrell is running for mayor. The choir's going to be there with Senator Jones and the superintendent, a corporate CTO, CEO, and the police chief, $200. Sometimes these invitations get forwarded to OCPF, and we look at it and say, violation, our alarms are going off. You can probably see why some of you. It's a fundraiser, and public employees are involved in the solicitation. Police chief, school superintendent. We'd say, that's a prohibited fundraiser, don't have it. So just something to be aware of when you're doing your literature for campaigns, whether it's for a candidate's campaign or a ballot question campaign, keep public employee names off there. You notice I don't care about the senator there, because elected officials are exempt. We'll get into that a little bit more here in a second. If you're going to have a fundraiser, please don't have it at public employee homes. Public employees are prohibited from soliciting or receiving, so they shouldn't also have fundraisers at their homes. Your state reps are paid, your governors are paid. I don't know, are the selectmen paid, Jim? Yep, selectmen get paid. So part of the Mass General laws, you're considered, if you're an elected official, a public employee. But they've been specifically exempted in the campaign finance law. So that's why you can see Governor Baker, Mayor Walsh, your state rep, even though they get paychecks, they can solicit or receive. It's okay. So elected officials are exempt on that rule. If you're from Massachusetts, you know that some of the most political groups in the state are your teachers, your police officers, and your firefighters. They spend literally millions of dollars every state election year to get people elected. So they can get involved. They just have to stay away from the soliciting or receiving. So your public employees here in town, and they can get involved as well. They can hold signs. A police officer can hold a sign for somebody as long as he or she does it on their own time. They can run for office as long as they don't fundraise for themselves. It seems ridiculous, but it's in the statute, so we have to enforce it. a public employee, let's say it's a school teacher, decides to run for selectman, he or she would be able to run, but they'd have to have a committee on the side to do everything, all their fundraising for them. In this case, that's a public employee, works at a community college. There's a donate button. They have to make it very clear on this website that it's from the committee, Eric Gordon committee. Call the committee. This is the committee website. So public employees in Southborough, if you want to run, you can. You just have to be careful. We welcome people to send us their website so we can review it if you'd like, just to make sure it's in compliance. So there's no sort of gray area where someone can say they're a public employee and they're soliciting. A public employee can go on social media and support candidates, as long as they stay away from the money. I've known John Jones my whole life. Please vote for him. Even if a public employee sends it, that's okay, as long as they do it on their own time and there's no money involved. Okay? Contribute, just like anyone else. In public buildings, there can't be any soliciting or receiving. So we're meeting here today in a public building. Let's say when we're done talking here, as you're walking out, someone sees you and says, you know what, I can't come to your fundraiser, but here's my check. Because you're in a public building, you can't accept it. There's no soliciting or receiving. In buildings used for governmental purposes, like senior centers, libraries, city and town halls, no fundraising. This goes back to a time when a mayor might march around City Hall and demand money from city workers. It doesn't happen anymore, as far as I know. But it's still on the books. So how might this affect you? Let's go back to that Wednesday night meeting that you might have with your campaign. And you're hanging out there and you sent out the invitations to everybody for your upcoming fundraiser. And the candidate thinks, you know what? We forgot to invite the police chief. Volunteer number 2, can you send an invitation to the police chief? Volunteer number 2 thinks, police station. The Supreme Court in the 1920s determined that that's an illegal solicitation in a government building. So the point being, if you're running a campaign, please don't send invitations to government buildings, or for that matter, to government email addresses. Finally, the campaign finance law prohibits the use of public resources for campaign purposes. We sort of share this rule with the Ethics Commission. So whenever you come across these sorts of issues, we ask that after you call us, call the Ethics Commission, because they may want to fine tune a few things as far as what we permit. They might be more restrictive, but public resources may not be used for campaign purposes. Where do we see this most often? It's with your ballot questions. Has this town had a ballot question election recently for, I don't know, a new school, a new fire station? Marijuana votes have been coming up. This is where we see those complaints. I mean, you can imagine, you want to build a new high school, you need voter approval. The superintendent might get nervous and sit down, and she types out a flyer that says, please vote yes on the new high school. It's for the children's future. Makes 1,000 copies, gives it to the teachers. The teachers put it in the backpacks, take it home to the parents. That's the use of public resources for a campaign purpose, and it's illegal. That's what we see most often. How many of you are interested in candidate campaigns, though? See a few hands go up. Okay, where might you guys be affected by this? It says public resources can't be used for campaign purposes. This building's a public resource. Public land is a public resource. Can you actually take coffee and donuts into the senior center and talk to the seniors about the issues and ask them for your votes? We say yes, so long as equal access is granted. Which means that if one candidate can do it, all candidates can do it. Where we might see this, let's say there's the, you don't have I don't think you had an election this fall, right? But let's say you did have an election this last fall, November 5th, and you wanted to take all your literature down to the varsity boys football game, and you wanted to pass it out to people at the concession stand on town property. Does OCPF say you can do that? We say, no problem, so long as equal access is granted. Of course, you're going to want to call the athletic director and say, hey, are we allowed to pass out literature? Because there might be a local rule that says no. But as far as OCPF is concerned, the campaign finance law is concerned, you can do those sorts of things. Any last questions on the ground rules? All right. So if you're going to run for office here in Southborough and your election is this spring and you want to raise money, the first thing you want to do is file this 101 form. It's on our website. You can find it at Google by typing in M101 OCPF. And this just says, hey, I'm a political committee. I'm going to be out there raising and spending money. It's the name of the candidate, has a chairperson. Usually the candidate is the chair. And then it has a treasurer. The treasurer cannot be a public employee, but it can be anyone else. And then you'll sign it and you'll hand it in to Jim in the clerk's office. And then you're a political committee, just like that. It's just that one simple form. And at that point, you can begin to raise and spend money to get elected. The next step, if you're going to be raising money, is to open your bank account. When you go into the bank, they may not know exactly what kind of account to open. You can ask them, say, hey, can you just call OCPF? They deal with these banks all the time. Someone there will be able to explain it to the bank officer. But my understanding, it's not a campaign finance rule, but most banks now require an EIN number. I'm going to go to the front page of our website, ocpf.us. And toward the top of the front page, we're always going to keep our advice on the EIN number. It's the number one question that we get asked. So I'm just going to scroll here. I didn't check beforehand, so I'm just trusting myself that I put it on there. There it is. There are instructions on how to get the EIN number. If you don't have it yet, if you go to the IRS portal for the EIN number, there are all sorts of crazy rabbit holes you can go down. But our instructions show you exactly step by step what to do to get the correct EIN number that you'll need for a political committee. Anyone here open a bank account and you needed the EIN? Yeah, I think Jim did. Okay. Sometimes local party committees come here, but I'm just going to give you just a general overview, because if you're running for office here, you may be running into the people who run these local party committees. They're all reorganizing. So there's probably a Republican and Democratic Southborough party committee here in town. They all get wiped out in March, a clean slate, and then at the presidential primary, the town's going to re-elect a town committee to fill those slots. That happens in March. Once that happens, they may have money in their accounts. They can raise and spend money, and they can use those funds to support your campaigns. They can donate up to $1,000 to you, or if they choose, they can pay some of your bills. So local party committees can get involved and help you out on a local level. When are your reports due? If you're already in office or you already have an account set up now in 2019, your next report is due the 21st of January. It's going to account for any activity you may have had in 2019. If you had no activity, it'll be an easy report to file, just a 0. File it on the 21st. After that, the next report will be due 8 days prior to your election. It'll be due 8 days prior to the election. The reporting period will go from January 1 until 18 days prior. That gives you 10 days to put together the report. And then 8 days prior, you file the thing. And then finally, you'll file a report 30 days after the election, covering the area that wasn't covered by the previous report. If you win, you'll continue to file reports every January 20th. If you lose, you can dissolve and there are no more filing requirements left. Any questions at all about filing dates or anything? Yes, Jim?
Does filing a 0 report for an unsuccessful candidate automatically terminate their committee?
It would, yes. If you're unsuccessful and you have no balance and you just file a 0 report, you're done. You don't have to file any longer. There are some candidates though who might lose and they still have $800, $900 left. They'll have to continue filing every January until they get that down to 0. Sometimes they want to stay open because they're like, all right, I lost now, but you know what? In 2021 or in 2020, 2021, I'm going to run for state rep or whatever, or in the fall I'm going to run for state rep. So they can remain open.
Question.
Please ignore those dates. I'm sorry, I didn't realize that we had 2019 there.
What if you don't have a committee?
You can run as a lone wolf.
Yeah.
You don't have a committee, maybe you spend out of pocket a couple $100.
Yeah.
You still file the reports. Everything's the same, you just don't have a committee.
Which you file at the end of the year.
You file at the end of the
That's
year.
it, no more.
If you're an incumbent, you file no matter what.
Even though you have no committee, no account.
That's right. Every incumbent must file every January 20th to show the public, zero, I didn't raise or spend any money. And any non-incumbent with a balance or activity.
Please remind me.
We'll send a reminder out to everybody.
Good.
Yep. We'll, every month I send a newsletter to the clerks departments. I don't know, do you get that? Okay. And so I think for the December one, we'll have some information in there about the year-end report that maybe you can share with them.
Great.
Please keep all your invoices, your receipts, everything for 7 years. So hopefully you have some storage space, but that's what the statute says. Well, it says December 31st, 6 years after the relevant election. It's just easier to say 7 years. This is what the campaign finance report looks like. If you've never filed one, it's called the M102. And if you look at the top line there, it has the reporting period. This one says 1/1 to 9/9, but you'll have a reporting period from 1/1 to 18 days before your election this spring. It has the ending balance from your previous report, how much you raised during the period, how much you spent, these are just totals, and then an ending balance. The ending balance where it says 2567, if that's ever negative, you did something wrong. It should never be negative. So if you ever have a negative balance, call us up, we'll help you out with it. Please don't have raffles. The Attorney General's office does not permit political committees to have raffles, so please don't have those. And your anonymous contributions, those are also prohibited. Anonymous, like when would you see that? It's, let's say that you have a little fundraiser at your home and you're diligent. You get names and addresses for everyone from $1 up to 1,000. But your cousin secretly maybe went around with his hat and collected a bunch of cash and presented it to you at the end of the night. That's anonymous. You have to have a name and address attached to each dollar. So if you don't have that, that's anonymous cash, and you do have to donate that to charity. $1,000 is the limit for the year. Whether you're running for governor or selectman in Southborough, an individual can give you up to $1,000 per year, per calendar year. You can take money from PACs. There are 250 of them in Massachusetts. And if you are lucky enough, you can maybe ask them for money and they can give you up to 500. The cash limit for the year was 50. So if you're running for school committee in Southborough and you're like, I'm only gonna need about $1,000 to win this thing. I'm gonna have one big small fundraiser, it's 20 bucks a head. You can take $20 bills, name and address, $20 bills, and you're good, up to $50 for the year. If someone gives you a $50 bill, they're done with cash for the year. After that, they're gonna have to cut you a check or do it by credit card.
Other question?
Yes.
What if you're, again, don't have a committee, and you want to spend $2,000 of your own money on a campaign? Is that permitted?
Yes, you can spend as much as you want out of your own pocket. He was asking how much you can spend out of your own pocket. Unlimited.
So me and Michael Bloomberg are, sky's the limit.
That's right. Or more local, Mitt Romney. Yeah, he spent a lot of his own money here in Massachusetts running for office. You can take money orders up to 100. If your contribution is for 200 or more, you need to get the occupation and employer as well and report that on your campaign finance form. This is what it looks like after you put the information into the campaign finance report, receipts. So you have name and address. We hope that you itemize everything. The second line there says John, $25. The law, though, does allow you to aggregate all of your small contributions of $50 or less and report them as a lump sum. It's not the best practice, but it is legal and you can do that, and that's reflected there in the top line. Name and address, $200, $1,000 is the limit. Just the different examples of different things. Candidate loan, $1,400, that's out of pocket, that's the candidate putting it in. So if you decide to do, if you're going to run for office, you're just going to use your own money, and you spend out of pocket, you're still a donor to the campaign, and you still put that in as a receipt. If you get a big check and it's for more than $1,000, you can keep it if there are 2 names printed on the check. In this case, it's Morgan and Jamie Knight, and so you can keep that check because you can split it between Morgan and Jamie. Anyone here going to raise money by credit card? I didn't see any hands that go up, but if you do decide, because a lot of times, Democrats, they'll use like Act Blue, people will use PayPal, Republicans, they're, I think, starting to use something called Win Red. When someone donates to you, let's say they give you $1,000, Act Blue, Win Red, they're going to keep like $20. You still report the full 1,000, and then it's an expenditure to Act Blue or Win Red. So if you end up wanting to raise money by credit card, call us up. We have a lot of educational material on that if you want the details. Please don't take anything from corporations. In Massachusetts, it's illegal for a business to make contributions to your campaign, either monetarily or in kind. So let's say you're going to have your big fundraiser and your team is around the table with you and you have everything, all the decorations, the invitations, everything's all settled, but not the food. And your friend says, I own a restaurant, a pizza restaurant, I'll give you all the free pizza you want. You have to say, thank you, we'll take it, but we have to pay for it. Businesses can't make any in-kind contributions to candidates. So that's where you most likely will see problems with corporations, businesses, LLCs. In-kind contributions, these are things of value that are not money. For example, you're having a fundraiser and it's going to be Patriots themed. And you ask all your friends and family, hey, can you give us some like Patriots memorabilia that you might have? We'll sell it, see if we can make a few bucks. So you get some jerseys, maybe some football cards, whatever. Someone gives you a signed Julian Edelman football. And you put it out on the table and someone buys it for $200 at your event. The person who bought it is a $200 donor to the campaign. So you report that on receipt, Schedule A. The person who gave you the football, your cousin, is a $200 in-kind donor. So you put that down on the in-kind schedule. So there are 4 schedules on your campaign finance report. Receipts, money coming in, expenditures, then Schedule C is in-kinds that we were just talking about. Schedule D is liabilities, those are the bills owed. So these are the in-kind contributions here. There are some exceptions, personal services. So your volunteers, you don't have to keep track. They're valuable, it's not money. You don't have to keep track of it, that's all off the books. Also, ordinary hospitality. I'm running for selectman here in Southborough, and a popular person in town has invited me to come over to her house on a Saturday morning to talk to all the neighbors and maybe even collect some checks. So I show up there are 20 people, and there's some wine and some sandwiches. She spent like $60, $70 on this thing. Do I have to like get the receipts and like report it as a in-kind contribution? We say no, that's just ordinary hospitality. It's just a small party. It's all off the books. Yes?
So if my brother-in-law does my website for me, that comes under the personal services exception?
That's right.
It doesn't charge me for it?
That's right. If you went to a private company, it might cost $600 for someone to make the website for you. But your brother-in-law's a whiz at the internet, he does it for free, you don't have to report the $600 in-kind. It's just off the books, he's a volunteer. All right, out-of-pocket expenditures, we touched on it, but you can make out-of-pocket expenditures. I know that's popular to do on the local level. So me, if I take out my wallet and I'm gonna run for office and I'm gonna pull out my debit card and I'm gonna buy my lawn signs using my personal debit card, that's okay. It's reported like this, it was $600. I'm a $600 donor to my campaign on Schedule A. On Schedule B, I put $600, Southborough Lawn Sign Company. That's why it's 600 in, 600 out. If I hope to be paid back someday, I can also put it down as a liability. We recommend that you put it down as a liability just in case you want to get paid back someday. There was a local official not far from here in the Worcester area who started her career as like a select person and just kept putting down liabilities as she went along. She eventually became Lieutenant Governor, Karen Polito, and she was able to finally pay herself back after all those years for the earlier money that she put in when she first started running for office. So we recommend if you're going to put your own money in, feel free to list it as a liability and you can pay yourself back someday. Spending money. You can make expenditures to enhance your political future, so long as it's not primarily personal. So obviously you're buying lawn signs, you're doing mailings, you're boosting Facebook posts. You get your volunteers together to hold signs, they're gonna want some pizza or something, some coffee, donuts. You can use the committee debit card, buy that. That's for your political future, and it's not primarily personal. If there's a gray area though, feel free to give us a call and we'll help you out with that. Primarily personal, let's say you're the top selectman in town and your front lawn's starting to look a little grubby. You're like, man, I'm a selectman. I need to keep up appearances. It's going to enhance my political future to have nice shrubs. So you ask OCPF, can I use my campaign account to put in shrubs? I have to keep up appearances. No, we'd say that's primarily personal. It might enhance your political future a little bit, but primarily personal. So if you're in that gray area, send us an email. We'll give you a thumbs up or a thumbs down on it, okay?
How about if you're going to be doing it for a fundraiser? You were going to have a particular spot in your backyard for a fundraiser.
An argument could be made. Yeah,
How
it really
polite
could be
do that, by
made.
the way?
Call the DPW.
Well, you'll ask, yeah. You'll ask us that question, and I'm sure all the attorneys will gather together and try and come up with an answer for you. But yeah, there are some things where you wouldn't think it might be legal, but it's okay. Please be as detailed as possible. One prohibition is buying clothing. Let's say I don't have any suits at home, but oh my goodness, I'm a selectman now. I'm gonna have to get some suits for these meetings. Can I use my campaign account? We say no. But you want to buy Vote for Pedro shirts for your campaign? Instead of just putting clothing, which might raise questions, be as detailed as possible. 100 campaign t-shirts. That way, if we audit, we'll go, or if the public sees it, they'll know, okay, it's for a political purpose. He or she is not buying clothing for personal reasons. Or especially for food. Anytime you buy food, and my boss is kind of hot on this, please be as detailed as possible. Appreciation dinner for literature drop-off volunteers. Instead of just dinner. Dinner is going to get you a letter from OCPF. With that, we'll pass right over. If you ever have to reimburse someone, call OCPF. There's a form you have to fill out, the R1 form. So let's say someone went out and bought pizza for the whole group. And you said, did you use the committee debit card? No, I forgot. Okay, we'll reimburse you. You can write them a check, but you do have to fill out this form. So just if you're in that situation, give us a call, we'll help you out. And then finally, bills owed. Mostly bills are going to be owed to the candidate. In this case, the candidate loaned $3,000. And that liability will just ride from year to year, from report to report. So, man, I've been going through all sorts of rules, like just bam, 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 rules. So, it seems like that we're an agency full of rules, and we are, but we're not the type of agency that wants to get you. Like I said, we're not looking to go to the courtroom. So how do we resolve these cases? This is a criminal statute. At the end of each section, there's scary language about massive fines and these jail terms, like you can actually go to jail for this stuff. Most of our cases are resolved through what we call public resolution letters. This is a way where we're staying out of the courthouse, and we're able to see this issue in front of us, resolve it, and then move on. Before I go and show you that portion of our website, I just want to point out late fines are $25 a day up to $5,000. There's a process that you have to go through before you get fined, but please file your reports on time so that, first of all, there's disclosure, which is the law, and second of all, to avoid these fines. But I'm going to go back to the OCPF website, ocpf.us. I'm going to go, oh boy, this may not work. No. My iPad's acting up on me. I'm not able to open up certain tabs, and I think it might be a IT issue, but you have to trust me on this. We have an agency actions page there. public resolution letters, it's a way for us to informally resolve a case, stay out of the courthouse. We also can do disposition agreements. These are agreements that usually come with a pretty hefty penalty payment to the state, but it's another way to stay out of the courthouse. Usually disposition agreements involve people who our director felt intended to go around the campaign finance law. There was some intent to deceive. So we end up in a disposition agreement where we're still not in a courthouse. Finally, we can refer a case to the AG's office for criminal charges. That's pretty rare though. Yes.
Are these letters and agreements published on your website?
They are. If you were to go to our legal tab, it's not opening, but if you go into our legal tab there up on top, it says agency actions. You can click there and they're all listed. They're listed out.
Have we ever had any of those, Mr. Town Clerk? Are you aware?
No.
A clean
So-
community. Great.
What other kinds of information is made publicly available, or what's the process if somebody wants to obtain some information on
Yeah.
someone's campaign?
So the reason, if you want to obtain information about a local candidate's campaign, you can go down to the town clerk's office. They're all right there. Do you guys post them to the website at all? No, not yet. Yeah, you go down to the town clerk's office and say, hey, can I see the campaign finance reports? Locally, with the state office, there are different ways. In the upper right-hand corner, you could just type in a name if you wanted to, and you could look at somebody's reports. If I typed in Baker, I'm not picking on Baker, but everyone knows who he is, so I'm just gonna look that up. And you would see, he's in a different system than you, but you would see that for the second half of October, he files twice monthly. He started with 921. During that 2-week period, he brought in 86. He spent 52. He has 955 left over. So you can look at a specific candidate's report. What's the name of the state rep for Southborough?
Carolyn
Dykema.
Beckman.
Dykema.
Dykema.
Yeah, it's glitchy. Like you can see how there's no information there. There's something wrong with the website.
State
Um,
Senator Eldridge.
Yeah. So the mid-year report, 2019, looks like she brought in almost $900, expenditures of $403. So she didn't spend a lot of money. But this is why we exist, the disclosure portion of it. That's if you want to look up a specific candidate. One of our most popular feature though is just looking up just raw data. So if you look at the starred items underneath our banner, it says search campaign finance data. I'm going to click there, and let's say I'm running for selectman. I kind of want to know who in Southborough tends to give money. So I go here and I choose the city, Southborough. There it is. And I only want to know people who give the maximum amount. I only want the big money people coming. So I'm going to put in a minimum amount of 1,000, a maximum amount of 1,000, and just see what pops, if anything. So that's what it is. This is why we exist, is for these sort of databases. So someone like Karen Polito, and then the various donors from Southborough. And there are all sorts of different ways that you can manipulate the data. You can do it by occupation or employer. You can do it by time. People who only give to certain candidates. These are all the different types of things. This is our most popular feature and why we exist. It's all about disclosure at OCPF. If you're running your campaigns, and I know you came to this, if you need help videos, we do have help videos there. By clicking here on help videos. And otherwise, you can search through the site, and there are all sorts of different things you can find. But probably the best advice is to send us an email or call us, and then we can direct you to where you need to go. But everything you need to know is on that website, and just a phone call away. So we went through it. It's a compacted sort of version of our seminar. I could go on for hours if my voice could hold out, but any final questions at all? Yes?
A couple, back to the basic ground rules. If you're was a public employee was the term in that? What if you're a public employee that, to a position that actually has a stipend associated with it, but you don't take the stipend, so you're not compensated?
You would still be considered a public employee and prohibited from
Because
soliciting
that-
or receiving,
that goes
yes.
with the territory.
Yes.
What if you're both a elected and appointed official?
The status as an appointed official overrides the exemption as an elected official, so you're still prohibited from soliciting or receiving.
So you count as
Public employee.
appointed.
Yeah, it counts as appointed. Yep, that's right. I appreciate everyone coming out, and yes?
You talked about elections. Are there any prohibitions against government entities or officials to influence voters to vote at town meetings on warrant articles?
The campaign finance law does not cover town meeting. And so I just took a question recently, yesterday, and they're having a town meeting, and the town wants to spend money to advocate for this warrant article. And it seems like something that should be prohibited, but the campaign finance law doesn't touch it. So anything that happens at town meeting is really town meeting. Where we'd get involved is if town meeting needed to approve the building of a new high school, and then a month later the voters were going to vote on it at a real election. Then we'd get involved and we'd say, oh, don't use town resources for that warrant article, or some version of that. But if it's just town meeting stuff, we're hands off. All right, if you have any questions that you didn't want to ask in the group, as I'm breaking down, feel free to come up and ask them. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.